Hello YouTube, this is Darkon633 back with another Transformers review. Today we're going to take a look at the Transformers Generations Titans Returns Leader Class Decepticon Overlord with his Titan Master, Dreadnought. And I really think Dreadnought is a really cool name for a Titan Master, although obviously fans of the Transformers Master Force cartoon will know him as Overlord, as the Decepticon leader in that particular cartoon, which is the second incarnation in the Transformers G1 Japanese trilogy. Unfortunately, he does not include Giga and Mega, and looking at the Takara version, they have opted to not include the standard Giga and Mega as well, and unfortunately they also filled in his little chest panels, meaning that it's still not accurate no matter which way you go for it. And that's unfortunate. Anyways, we'll take a look at the box. The box is in the standard leader class scale. So it has a picture of Dreadnought there attached to the body. Pretty much around the same here with a little more close look at his body. And he transforms in 20 steps. What's really cool is that he's technically a combiner slash multi-changer, so that's really awesome. Before anything else, the contents include the shield weapon, the gun, obviously Dreadnought, and a card. So that's really nice, and his stats are pretty good. And I do really like the artworks on these cards. Anyways, we'll now look at Overlord. In terms of articulation, the head does swivel 360, and it can kind of look up and down, but not by a whole lot. He has swivels at the shoulders, but they do kind of get locked when you try to move them sometimes. And he does have some outward movement and a little bit of up and down movement due to transformation. He has swivels at the elbows, a single joint at the elbow, and hand can pivot a bit due to transformation. He has no waist articulation, but he has ratchets at the hips, swivels at the thighs, single knee joints, and feet can pivot. But what's cool is that he also has ankle tilts, so that's really nice and it really helps with the articulation. Now, we're actually going to use the gimmick in his chest now. And what's cool is, even though Giga and Mega is not included, you can indeed put two Titan Masters in his chest. And while they're not accurate, since he was a God Master, you still can kind of do something like that, so we're just going to put in two random ones. Here is... what's his name? Here is Grotesque Head, and here's Clobber. So you can attach Titan Masters inside, so that's pretty cool. So we're going to pull them out. It's a little bit hard to actually pull out, but not the worst. Depends on what type of head you actually attach inside. It can be a little bit tricky to actually grab, but once you do, it does come out. And now we're going to close the chest and look at some of the other features in this mode. Obviously, he has a shield that can be removed, which is accurate to the original G1 Overlord's design, so that's pretty cool. And he does include, obviously, Dreadnought, which we'll now look at more closely. So, taking out Dreadnought, here is a closer look at his head mode. And now, here is his Titan Master mode, which is really cool. So now, we're going to actually go to the transformation, which you can actually keep Dreadnought inside. So it's nice that we got another figure that you can actually keep the head attached for transformation. And now we'll move on to that. Overlord in his standard vehicle mode. Now, he's technically a parts former on top of being a combiner, so it's very interesting when it comes to this particular character, and this is accurate to his G1 design since he could do that too. He does include this landing gear, although it doesn't really look that good in my opinion. It does at least work for what it needs to do. He also obviously includes the little tank, which does have 3 wheels at the bottom. It would have been nice to have 4 wheels, but I can understand why for this kind of design you'll have 3 plastic wheels there. And because of that, he can roll across the table if you wish to. What's also cool is that because he is technically 2 individual vehicles, he has the space for 2 Titan Masters. So if you wish to, we're just going to put Clobber here again. You can actually place a Titan Master inside the tank, and also in the jet. It's sometimes a little easier to just pull off this piece. I'm not exactly sure if that piece is supposed to come off, but it does look like there isn't anything glued there and so on. But basically what you can do with that, it gives you a little area so that you can attach a Dynamaster inside the cockpit, like that. And you do need to close it off so that it won't cause it to collapse and so on. But it does work, at least, for that. In terms of the jet, though, from what I could tell, he doesn't really have any real wheels, unlike the tank. But it does work for both of the modes, since they do look accurate, at least in the way that they're designed. Anyways, we'll now actually go into another transformation that's kind of a fan-made one, but I've seen people online actually able to do this, which is accurate to the original G1 character. We're actually going to do this on camera this time. So basically what you're going to do is, as if you're transforming it into his robot mode, since what's cool is that this particular part of the body will actually split and attach to there. And that's really awesome, since it's a lot reminiscent to the Armada Tidal Wave kind of transformation. But basically what the pseudo kind of fake mode looks like is that in the original G1 cartoon, or at least the original Japanese G1 cartoon Master Force, he's actually able to combine the tank and jet to form a kind of armored kind of jet mode. Basically, in order to do it for this one, you do need to kind of play around with the piece here in order to get it right. So there we go. And then we just plug it in. And with that, you become that kind of pseudo tank flying mode. In the original design, the tank was actually forming in the correct way. As you can see, the barrel area actually faces the opposite direction, and it's not really like a full tank, but it does work, in my opinion, overall in how that mode is supposed to represent. Another thing I've seen people online do is, basically what you can do is detach this piece again, turn it back into the tank mode, which we'll do now. This part can be a little bit tricky and sometimes confuses me because of the way that it forms. Basically, we're just going to quickly transform this back into the tank. And what pretty much does here is that you take the jet, take the little chest compartment pieces, and it kind of plugs into these little holes on the side there. And while it doesn't fit in all that well, you can kind of hold it a little bit by friction slightly. So you do kind of wedge the little pegs on the side there. And with that, you can allow the jet to actually hold onto the tank. Although, as I mentioned earlier, it just does not hold onto it very well. But it pretty much get the idea like this. So it does have something going on from there. So anyways, we're actually going to transfer it into his third mode and look at a comparison next to Ginrai. Got him inside his little pseudo battle station mode. This was actually present in the original G1 design, but he did have a few more ramp areas, so it makes it a little bit more of a full-on battle station mode. This one just kind of looks like a makeshift mid-stage form, and it just looks kind of weird, but I can understand what Hasbro was doing for this design, since at least they were able to implement that kind of design. He does have pegs all over his body, so you can actually fix several Dynamasters in this mode, but overall you pretty much get the main idea how Overlord plays within his multiple modes. Now that we got Overlord back in its robot mode, I did actually forget to mention that he does have a lot of sticker details throughout the body. This is something that's actually factory placed, and you do not actually need to attach it onto the figure, but it's actually in areas at least that are not kind of hindering onto the transformation, since they actually stickered in few areas that actually do not affect the transformation, so it's at least nice that they actually put it in areas like that. As a comparison, as I mentioned earlier, here he is next to Magnus Prime, also known as Ginrai from Japan. So it's really nice that he does scaling pretty decently next to Power Master Optimus Prime or Ginrai. One thing to note is that the original G1 toy and the design is that the character was supposed to be one of the largest Decepticons to date at the time. And unfortunately, obviously since they're both leader class figures, you're not going to get that kind of impact as if they were like Supreme class figures or Titan class figures. But I can understand, since I think in my opinion that would be pushing it already. So at least it is nice that Hasbro decided to release Overlord, since the original G1 toy actually did not make it over to the States. So that's really awesome that this is actually the first official release of the character, at least in this particular version of the character, in North America. So I'm really glad that I was able to get Overlord, and he turned out a lot nicer than I thought originally, since he is pretty much just a heavy retool of Sky Shadow. I got this at BBTS, and since my area is still yet to actually get this figure, some areas have actually been able to stock this figure, but as of right now, it just doesn't seem like he's stocked in a lot of areas, so you're probably better off getting this particular figure somewhere online. Anyways, please comment and subscribe and check out Hero Club and Hero Taku. Also check out Twitter, Darkon633, and don't forget to check down the other channels down below. Please check the little bell at the bottom of the screen in order to see my content go up as soon as possible. And back with more Transformers reviews, but for now, I'll be seeing you later, YouTube. Bye.